Welcome back, and in this video we're going to make a Space Invaders style game. So last video you should have seen there's how you put sprites and images and things on your games. I'm not going to focus on that today. Maybe at the end I might possibly do it as an extra, but we're going to focus on the game functionality, and obviously you can go back and add those bits in. I'm going to presume you've already imported P5.play. I'm going to presume you've got a nice little game set up. Maybe that's a bit small actually, 500 by 500. And then yeah, let's get to it. There's no point waiting around. So, variables, let enemies, want the player, I'm not going to do a weapon up, we'll have some bullets, so we'll call it weapon, and then let's have some variables to set up how things look. So let player height equals 20, so that's going to be our dude. Let player W equals 50, sorry. How many rows, because obviously if you think about Space Invaders, if I was looking at some sprites, so if we put Space Invaders, if we take a little look, we can see on images that there's rows and columns of bad guys. So I'm going to do let rows equals 2, let calls equals 10, so 10 by 2, so 20 bad guys, and then I'm going to have two more variables, one called let left equals false, let right equals false. So this is for our bad guys going left or right. Okay, so that's our variable set up. So let's go to setup. Let's make our bits. So we're going to make a group for the enemies. Enemies equals new group, and then we'll do enemies.w equals 20, enemies.height equals 20. Let's have the collider, so enemies.collider. We'll put that as a kinetic. Now I want enemies.velocity.x to be 1 for now, and that's our enemy done. Now what we need to do is set up we're going to use a 2D array for this. Because we use a group, we can use a 1D array, because that's what a group essentially is. But we need a for loop to make sure we do rows and columns, otherwise we'll just have one big line of enemies. So I'm going to do for let I equals 0, I is less than columns. Now I'm going to do calls plus 1, and I'm going to set my for loop to be 1 because I don't want it to spawn in the corner, I want it to move on a little bit. And then I plus plus, and then exactly the same again, but j equals 1, j is less than rows plus 1, j plus plus. Then what I'm going to do is do new enemies.sprites, and then I times enemies.width, j times enemies.h. Okay, now what that's going to do is hopefully make a nice grid of bad guys. There we go. And you see they're already moving right. I can just put my clear. So that's all sorted. So we've got our enemies moving in a grid to the right. Obviously, if you want it to move further along, you can start I at 2. And if you want more enemies, if I want to have 5 rows of enemies, I can just go to rows, change it to 5, and then I'm going to have a big stack of bad guys there, a big block like that. Obviously, you can put spaces in and things like that. I could do for the plus 10 pixels, and that'll space them out slightly. Not much. Does 20 work? Should work. Oh, I need to do it as a in brackets because it was also the same thing if I'm going to do much. Oh, that's not really worked. Let's look at that because that should have put some space. I mean, it should be the height I was looking at to do that, to be fair. That should work. But it's not at the minute, so I'll also look at that, figure out why that's not doing that. Anyway, let's move on. No one does work like that. But, oh well, it's not important. We can figure that out later on. So, player equals new sprite. So, width divided by 2. And then height subtract player h, so it's slightly above the bottom. And then player w player H. That should make me a little dude at the bottom. There we go. So that's our guy that's going to shoot. Nice and easy. And then don't need a collider really, but we'll add it as a K, so we know that it's going to not get hit by anything. And then now it's working. We want to set left and right to false. They already are, but we're going to change them in a minute. So left equals false, right equals false, like that. Let's just scroll down a little bit. Then what we want to do is go through all the aliens. So for let I equals 0, I is less than enemies dot length I plus plus, like that. I'm going to say if enemies I, so we're going to check every single enemy, dot x equals the width. So if we've got to the right hand side, then we're going to say left equals true, which means to go left after that. Otherwise, so else if enemies I dot x equals 0, so we've got to the left hand side, then right equals true. Of that, nice and easy. Now after this for loop, we're going to say if we're going right, we start off with left if you wanted to. Else if left. So if you say if right, it just means if right equals true. It's the same thing. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through every single one of my enemies again, just like that. Just like that. Get rid of that. Don't need that there. Then I'm going to do enemies I dot y plus equals enemies dot h. So I'm just going to shift down one from their size, and I'm going to change their velocity. So enemies I dot velocity dot x. We're going to times it by -1. So I'll basically flip it. So if it's going right, it'll go left. If it's going left, it goes right. And then if I'm going left, I want to do exactly the same thing. It's the same code. Okay. So now what should happen is if it's working, it should go to the right. I'm sure it won't embarrass me. And it should go to the left once it hits the edge. So shift it down, it moves left, it should get to the left hand side, shift down again, and then go right. So that's our enemies sorted. Next thing we might want to do is make it so we can move. So I'm going to add a function here called player move. I'm going to make the function now. So function player move, and then that's just going to be your left and right. So if kb dot pressing, then pressing A, else if keyboard dot pressing D, and all I'm going to do is I can either add to my X, or I can actually do player dot move 1. A is left, isn't it? So left, and how much am I going to move by? And then exactly the same thing, but right. You could just increase the X position if you wanted to as well. Both of those work fine. So I should now, I can move, not very quickly, but I can just change these numbers if I want to do that. And then what I want is to be able to shoot. Okay, so I'm going to have shoot here. I'm going to have another function shoot, like that. And then what I'm going to say is if kb dot presses, and then space, like that. So press the space bar. What I'm going to do is weapon equals new sprite. That's going to spawn on the player.x, player.y, and take away player h so it doesn't spawn from a weird corner. I think that should be fine. So we'll see if that works. Yep, spawning some weapons there. Weapon.vel.y equals -1, so it's going to go upwards. Weapon.diameter equals 10, I don't want it nice and small. And then what I'm going to do is do weapon.overlapping with enemies. I'm going to call a function called hit, so that's what I'm saying there. And then what I'll say is if weapon.y is greater than 0, I'm just going to get rid of it. Weapon dot remove. Don't necessarily need that. You could keep it going. It's just you don't particularly want loads and loads of things in your memory. So we need to make that hit function. Hit function is really easy. Function hit. We're going to pass in the enemy and the weapon. We don't have to call it here because it automatically grabs the two things already. It grabs weapon and it grabs the enemies automatically. So we can just call it as a parameter there. E.remove and W.remove like that. So we can see it works. So I should be able to make a new sprite. Doesn't seem to be any mistakes or errors. So I'm sure there's something daft that I've just missed off. So I'm calling shoe. Let's just check it's calling properly. So console log. See if I've shot. Okay, it seems to be calling that function fine. So let's see if it's actually looking at my keyboard and see if I'm shooting. So let's check the debug there. So that seems to be working. I don't think I'm missing anything. As far as I'm aware, I should be able to see that. So let's have a look. Just make sure I can actually see the weapon when it gets spawned. It was working before. Let's just remove that and see if it works. So I don't see anything particularly wrong with what I've done. Is it possibly that though? Yep, it was that. So basically I was just automatically killing. I was killing the blocks before they arrived. I said if it was greater than 0 rather than less, so it's Y is 0 here. So it was always going to be greater, so it was just deleting them before I even made them. We all make mistakes, myself included. So player.y take away player h, I think is what I had. And now obviously I can make that faster if I wanted to. But then it's killed those blocks. There we go, it's a bit faster. It's wet. So they keep coming down, and then I suppose all we have to do is say if any of these. So we have the weapon to overlap in there. What we could have is here we could say enemies dot overlapping with player. I'm going to call, I don't know, game over. And I could go down to the bottom and add function game over. And then I want the player. I don't actually need that, I think. I just do no loop like that. And then let's see if it works. It should, once it gets to the bottom. I wish I'd made it a bit faster now, I'm not going to lie. I could put that to like 5, and that should run a little bit faster then. Obviously, you could use that to increase at every level, so the thing's a bit bigger. But hopefully, once it touches my guy, we can shoot and move. As soon as it touches it, it should freeze because I've used no loop, which isn't a good way of doing it, but it is a method of stopping the game. So it's not quite worked there. So there's clearly something I've done wrong there. So function game over. Nothing wrong with that. If enemies dot overlapping, I think that's what I did last time. Overlapping enemies and hit. My group is touching player and game over. So that should do something. So I'll say console.log. You died, and let's increase the velocity to 10. So it's going to be well fast now. And we'll check the log. And hopefully it'll do something. Be nice, won't it? So it didn't call that, so it seems to not think we're overlapping. So I think what's happening is, I think it's through the collider, so it's put to dynamic, and then really it should be player overlapping with the enemies. I think is a better way of doing it. Let's have a little look. It should go ahead now. There you go. It's touch me. Check that. It says game over. Well, it says you died, and that's it. Obviously, what we can do on top of that then is we could quite easily. I don't know if I've got. I don't think I've got any sprites or anything, but we could quite easily add in a preload. So function preload. We could have, let alien image equals load image alien.png. I'll go find a picture for that, and I can say image.image equals alien image. I could then go on to open game art, hopefully find a nice alien. This one looks terrible. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like it. No offense to the guy who made it, but alien no eyes it's called. So let's just put that in there. Name it to alien. It's probably gonna look gross now because it's gonna have these massive aliens because they're too big. Is the issue. So we need to scale that image down. So image.scale equals. Let's try it quarter the size. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I think the picture itself is pretty messed up. Because the guy's there, so it's a pretty terrible image. There we go. The picture doesn't look great, but still works as normal. And then we've got a sprite in there. So that was it. So we've used sprites to get it in there. We've put some animated sprites in. We've managed to get the Space Invaders game working. We're looped through an array, and we've got some nice collisions. So this can be used for like Gallagher, Space Invaders, any sort of shooting game you want to do. So hopefully that was nice and easy. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.
1 minute later.
I've just come back on because I realised at the start of the video, like an idiot, I was trying to get this spacing in. So what I've done there to make it like this is I've just done the width and the height times 2. And you'll see that's put that spacing in there now, so the space is between. So I can actually get in between them and things like that. Obviously I wanted a bigger gap, I might do that by 3, so I've got more space between. Like that. It's entirely up to you. I thought I'd add that in there because, well, that's what I said I'd do. So I don't want to be I'm going to go back on what I say I'm going to do. So, same again, like and subscribe. Hopefully it was nice and good. And I'll see you in the next video.